What's up, everybody? Michael Johnson here with Backstage Choreo Live. I'm excited to be here today and share with you some more talk about systems. So I'll do my little disclaimer up front. If you're not interested in systems, business systems, personal mental systems, systems that can improve your life and take you to the next level and your business, especially your business, then you're in the wrong place and you can peace out. And I'll save you the time. But for those of you that are in running a business, part of a business, if you're in charge of a business, if you're doing anything with business, then you need to improve your systems. If you need to take your systems to the next level, if you need an operations or an operating system upgrade, then you're in the right place. And we've been talking a lot about systems. Of course, we've been using our framework, the Business Choreography Systems Framework, and we've been digging into the E7S framework, which is the Essential 7 systems. Now, we've spent a lot of time going through a lot of different parts of that system. We skipped one of the most important parts. When we started, we skipped the positioning choreography systems, and we jumped in to start talking about attraction systems. So we did that with purpose, right? We wanted to jump in and get to some of the systems that, for lack of a better way of saying it, I guess there is a pun intended, we skipped and went straight towards the attraction choreography because we wanted to talk about some things that were attractive. And while positioning could be considered attractive, oftentimes it is not always considered attractive. And that's because there's some work. There's some work that needs to be done with it. And so oftentimes people shy away from that work. So what we've done is we've now gone through these. So you should go back and look at some of the other lives. And we're circling back around to positioning, not because it's less important. The reason it's first in the list is because it's quite important. However, many of you already have businesses up and going and making money and doing things within them that you Frankensteined. And as you Frankensteined those, a lot of the systems in the E7S systems need a little bit of attention before it's time to go back and talk about positioning. But I didn't want to move too far away from talking about positioning systems because it's super important even to go back and revisit. You don't want to leave it off the table for too long, because if you do, you start kind of diverging from the goal, from the path. And it's easy, especially if you have team members, an employee, if you have some VAs, if you have a team of 10 or you have a team of 200, it doesn't make a difference. If your team gets lost along the way from what the goal or the target, the lighthouse is, then it's going to start to skew all your results. And if you have experienced this like me, you end up with a whole bunch of clients you don't want. You even accidentally can end up with a whole bunch of team members that you don't want. And we will ultimately go and talk about the metaphor systems. That's the M4S framework. And we'll talk about team systems and talk about financial systems and some of those things, right? Those are essential. They come after the Essential 7 system. So right now, what I'd like to do is dig in a little bit more to positioning choreography systems and speak a bit about positioning as a whole. Now, this particular part of the E7S systems is quite unique. If you're in that early stage and you're bootstrapping and you're just trying to get the business off the ground, and this is ridiculously important. And those of you that have businesses and have been earning money and been around the block a little bit, you know how important the positioning is. But what's easy to forget as you are down the road, maybe you're 3 years, 5 years into your journey, then it's easy to forget that your positioning needs constant attention. And it's not for any other reason other than, as entrepreneurs, we have, I've heard somebody call it entrepreneurial, uh, uh, entrepreneurial distraction, right? Like we're just constantly distracted about all the things we could do, the ideas that we do have, the things that, oh, we could take this way, or we could go do this thing over here, we could go do that over here. I once had a mentor that that picked up a partner, and the partner said, I will work with you if you stay focused on our thing and you guarantee me you'll focus on this thing for at least 3 years. Instead of, because he knew him, he knew that he was going to bounce around to 10 other things, and he had a track record of doing so. So it's important that we revisit positioning systems, and that's why it's squarely living in this space where it's right here in the E7S systems, right? It's right here at the top, because you need to be clear about it. So what I'd like to talk about today, and what I want to share with you, and you guys can do this exercise, and it's not hard, but it is difficult. So I guess you could reverse those. You could say it's not difficult, but it is hard. Maybe we'll go with that direction, right? Where there's some parts of it that are difficult, and but not really. I mean, the questions are easy to ask, maybe harder to answer. So you're going to need to take a little time. And I do highly recommend that you spend time at this periodically. Now, depending on where you're at in your business, really makes a difference as to when you should be focusing on this. The farther down the line, let's say you've been in business 10 years, 15 years, something like that, then you might have a team you can put on this to head it up with you, because they're going to still need your guidance if you are the leader of the pack. If you are in that mid-range 4 or 5 years, then you probably need to do this, and maybe you have some trusted advisors that you do it with. Maybe they're trusted advisors in your business and company, or maybe they are mentors that you bring to help you do this, right? And if you don't have somebody and you need some help, let me know, right? But the idea here is that we need to spend time focusing on this and asking these questions over and over again. And I always find it fascinating how the question asked will ultimately be answered slightly differently depending on when you ask the question, right? And you know that's true. If you're in a really good mood, you'll answer a question very differently than if you're in a really bad mood. You'll answer it differently if you're really hyper energetic than when you're out of energy and out of juice, and you've utilized everything you have for the day, and somebody asks you a question, and the last thing you want to do is answer it, let alone answer it well. And so you have to realize that the timing in which you ask these questions matters. But that's why this is recorded and on video, and you can come back and watch it. And if you are like, but Michael, it might disappear in the feed. Yeah, sure. So come and join systemsforexperts.com. It's free. It's our experts community where you can come and just have a great time. There's like really great free courses and stuff inside of it, and these lives are in there. You'll be able to find them and scroll through. In fact, the team is looking at potentially organizing them into a single place where you can get to them faster rather than having to scroll through the feed and find them. But that's neither here nor there. So for right now, we're going to literally dig in, and as I've shown you here, we've kind of gone through and built some basic systems up here. So what we're going to talk about right now is some basic positioning systems. These are you could consider this one whole system, or you could consider this some basic questions that you need to ask and answer. And if you have a team, you need to make sure you're doing this maybe on your own and with them. because you might find some different answers. If you have a team of people, you might have some different answers from them. In fact, it might be a great exercise for you to do this on your own, and then go and interview some of the people on your team and ask them what these answers are, so that you can see if your entity, your business, has shifted and fallen away from the lighthouse that maybe you originally established. And that can be hard or easy. Sometimes you need an outside entity to come in and do that for you, because it's hard for you to ask those questions, and get the answers that you need. So keep that in mind. But let's go through this. We're going to talk about the first thing, which is, I don't need that to be on the screen here. So we'll just go like this. All right. So we're going to talk about the first thing, which in terms of your positioning is really important in order for you to get a good ground level, right? They say before you build the Empire State Building, you got to dig a really big hole. That's how it is, right? Like, you're going to build a really tall building, you got to dig a big hole first. And so the big hole that we're going to dig here is, first, we've got to discover and know our EEI. Now, for some of you, this is super easy. This is really like, oh yeah, I totally get this. For some of you in the earlier stages, you're still trying to grasp it and figure it out. And for those of you that have been around the block, right, I'm kind of giving you some different phases. If you've been around the block a few times, sometimes it's easy to forget and or to have an identity crisis, which if you're of any age and been moving right along in your journey for a while, you've probably had some identity crises along the way, and that's okay. And that's just normal as part of the experience. So EEI is what I call your experience, your expertise, and your insight. And your EEI is probably the most valuable thing you have. It's your life lived. It's your experience along the way. It's the expertise you've picked up from doing, from actually being in it and doing it. And it's your insight that you've gained from that expertise and that experience along the way that then, combined with the other two, this triad, experience, expertise, and insight, forms up what I would call your secret sauce. And your secret sauce is something AI can't replace. AI is replacing a lot of things right now. AI is writing better than we can write. It's going faster and finding the answers to things we need answers to faster than we could, even with Google. And we thought Google was really cool, 6 years ago. And AI is doing a lot of really cool things, which has kind of sped the world up a little bit. Everything's going just a little bit faster than it was before, and it's potentially going to get faster. But what AI can't do is it can't go out and live in the real world. They can't go out and do the things that we can do. And maybe the robots are gonna come and figure it out. But right now, that's all speculation, right? So for right now, your experience and the insight that you gained from your experience is so valuable, right? Your unique perspective is so valuable. The way you look at things strangely is valuable. You and I might have ridiculously different beliefs, and that's okay. And I'm cool with that, because that brings me insight that you don't have, and that brings you insight that I don't have. And how cool is that? How cool is that to live in a time when we can have that, when we can do that, and maybe we could even have a conversation about that. That's a little scary, right? Maybe. Well, I can say it's a little scary when people haven't learned to speak with people that believe different than them, right? But we've got to work on that as a human race. So what we want to do is we really want to dig into our EEI. Now, if you're capable of doing this on your own and you're like, yeah, I'm really comfortable with who I am, let me just go back and look at those things and figure it out, write down some of my experiences, write down some of the expertise that I have, and get a good list of that, and then figure out what insight I have that is unique and special. If you're really good at doing that, then that's what I implore you to do at this stage. If you need some help with that, I've done this a lot with a lot of people in a lot of different industries, whether it was software and SaaS, or whether it was ballroom dance and working with professionals or amateurs or my little babies that were learning to dance, right? Or whether it was in my personal development business, working with people on their marriages, on their weight loss, or whatever it was that we were doing. Being able to find people's EEI has always been one of my superpowers. It's been something I've been good at. And so I wanted to help more people do it. So I created a cool little assessment called an EEI assessment. So if you need some help and you want to check it out, go watch the masterclass. The masterclass is free. The assessment isn't, because the assessment is involved and in depth. But you can go check it out at bizchoreo.com/myEEI. BizChoreo, BizChoreo.com/myEEI. Go check it out. There's a free masterclass. You can at least dig in and learn more about EEI, because that's about as much as I'm going to talk about it here. But sometimes you need help. You need help being able to have the mirror put in front of you, right? And I think that's really one of the best things I've received from my greatest mentors, is that they were able to somehow slide over the metaphorical mirror in front of me. And I went, oh, I didn't realize that was who I am. Oh, right. And that's what great mentors do for you. And so that EEI assessment, super cool. I think you're going to love it. If you need some help with that and you feel like, yeah, you know what, I'd really like to be able to have that mirror shined on me so that I can see what my EEI is and my secret sauce is, then go take that assessment. Super cool. Like I said, bizchoreo.com/myEEI. Anyway, that's the first part in positioning, because you understanding your EEI is a really great step. Now, that was really much more about you. So the next piece is a little bit, we want to dig more now into the business side of things, because that's kind of what this positioning choreography system is all about, and the systems that live within positioning choreography. So this part is about your philosophy. This is super interesting to talk about, right? Because I usually catch people off guard when we start talking about, like, what's your philosophy, right? What do you believe? And there's two things that usually happen. One, somebody's like, I believe this, and they're like full deep dive in. Or two, they start skirting around the issue and they don't want to tell you what they believe because there's some pain associated with what they believe. So the challenge always was and is, you've got to stick your flag in the sand. And if you're gonna really improve the positioning in your business, you've got to do a better job of sticking your flag in the sand. And when you stick your flag in the sand, you say, these are our philosophies. These are our beliefs that surround our business. This is who we are. This is what we believe. And this is what our philosophy is on how we do things, and how we're going to teach you to do things, how we're going to deliver things to you, how we're going to interact with you. These philosophies that you have are important. And this piece is so valuable. You need to pull this out for your positioning, because when you do, it makes such a huge difference in your progression as a business to whatever goal or end you might want to achieve, right? The interesting part about our philosophies is that we oftentimes want to boil it down to, like, what's our mission statement. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. and that is an offshoot of your philosophy. So you want to take some time and spend a little bit of effort figuring out what your philosophy is. And it might be multiple as a business. And those philosophies might actually be some of your frameworks, some of the things that you teach. It depends on your business, of course, and what type of business you're in as an expert. So it might be something that is typical, or it might be something that you're like, gosh, I don't know what our philosophies are. And, it's interesting because the more you can get clear on what your philosophy is as a business and what you guys stand for, where you stick your flag in the sand, the easier it gets for people to understand where you are and whether you're their person, whether your business is their business, whether you are for them or whether you are not for them. And there are lots of examples of this, but usually most businesses that I talk to are so afraid of polarizing. And yet the businesses that do polarize usually have a whole group of people that are very clearly on their side of the polarization, right? And that's okay. That's great. And so finding yours in the most appropriate way is good. Maybe you don't ever want to talk about politics in your business. Awesome. Don't ever talk about politics in your business. That's great. But that doesn't mean you don't have philosophies and you don't have a stance that you can take. One of my lines that I love from that show Hamilton, the Broadway show Hamilton, is when Hamilton's talking to Aaron Burr, and he says, if you won't stand for something, what will you fall for? And I thought, that is really cool. And I don't know who that's attributed to. I don't know if there's somebody that has that. If you know it, put it in the comments. I want to know if you know who the originator of that was, because I doubt it was from Hamilton, right? Or from the Broadway show. But the idea is simple, right? We want to know what we stand for, right? For me, one of my philosophies is that the quality of your systems in your life and in your business is the quality of your life, right? And I believe that because it comes and stems from my neurolinguistic background, right? You might have heard it called NLP. And with my NLP background, I have spent a lot of years understanding the systems of the mind, right? Neurolinguistics, and the P at the end is programming, neuro-linguistic programming. Well, when you're talking about programming, you're talking about creating a system. And so the quality of those systems that you create is the quality of your life. Some people are really good at creating bad situations, bad according to them and maybe to those around, right? Some people are really good at creating good situations, good for them and from their perspective, and good from other people's perspective around them. And you notice I'm saying that because good and bad is such a rabbit hole, right? But as we talk about these philosophies and what you stand for, if you can create some confidence about where it is that you stand, then life gets easier, right? So for me, I believe that systems make your life better. I believe that you can improve the quality of your business with better systems. I believe that most of, if not all of your problems in your business are systemic. That means that there is a system broken. There's something wrong in your system. I believe that it doesn't matter what part of your business you're dealing with. If you have bad employees, then there's a system that has created those bad employees. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, you probably created it. And if you didn't create it, then somebody you put in charge of creating it did, and they're creating bad employees. So it starts from the top, right? They always say that. And it starts from your belief systems and what your philosophies are. But there are lots of systems in your business that could be causing that. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And if you think I'm wrong, come at me, bro. Right? Like that's the idea. And that's where I'm sticking my flag in the sand and going, yeah, the problems are systems. And it's a system somewhere. It's a system between these ears of yours, somewhere roaming around in there, or it's a system that you passed off or somebody created for you that is broken. Right? And that's my flag in the sand. What is yours? What is your flag in the sand in your business for the philosophies of what it is that you teach and what you do? That's an interesting question. I'd love you to answer that. That's the next question. All right, let's move to the next one. Who are your people? This one's a seemingly easy question, but don't let its disguise of being easy throw you astray. If you remember the early days of your business journey, this was maybe harder for you than it is now. If you are in the earlier days, you might be going like, I think I know who my people are. If you're in your latter days, maybe you really have it nailed down, and maybe you're looking to implement a new segment of your market, in which case, if you are in that place, then this will be helpful because you know that it's difficult. So who are your people? Who are your people? This is a great question to ask, and it's a great question for you to figure out. My people are people that are in business. I've spent time in my career working with people that were starting their business, right? But my people are people that are in business, that have systems and maybe have built a Frankenstein. My people are people that have been in, know about revenue, have money coming in, know how to invest money to make more money. But they also know that there's things wrong that they need help fixing systematically. Maybe there's more chaos than you'd like. Maybe there's more, maybe there's problems you can't identify. I once went into a company as a spy, so to speak. That sounds way more cool than maybe it actually was, right? It was, but went in pretending to just be a regular new employee, and my job was to figure out what was going wrong. Where was the real problem? Because at the top, they couldn't see it. They couldn't figure it out. They couldn't identify it. And so I suggested maybe I come in as just a regular old person in the business and not have any rank, not anything like that. And let me find it from the bottom up. And there's some really great value of doing that, because I was able to see things that they couldn't see. Not to mention that I was already system oriented. And so I was looking for the problems from a system perspective. So I digress. Who are your people? Figure out who your people are. I want to say the more specific you get, the better, but that's relative to your business and it's relative to your scenario and situation. If you're on your second core offer, then you might be looking to gain a different segment of your audience, in which case you might know who your people are, but you're having to dig in specifically to a different segment of your audience so that you can capture more of the market. That's totally cool, right? And that's fine. If you're in your earlier stage, then you probably think you can serve everybody, and I'm not doubting that. But the problem with serving everybody is that what I find is most people in the early stages of their business think they can serve everybody. The truth of the matter is you cannot. You can't, because you're not equipped for it. You don't have the infrastructure for it. And yes, while your solution could potentially serve everybody, it cannot, because you're not ready for it. So you need to pick the segment of your market who you can serve until you're ready to serve the next segment of your market. And in the latter stages, once you're bigger and you've been around for a while, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, maybe 10 years, and you've been at it and you're doing it and you're ready for a new segment, the hardest part is going, I don't want to mess up my other systems. I've got this other segment down and I want to grow, but I don't want to mess up what I have. And it's so hard. It is so hard to take and isolate that piece that has gotten you to where you've gotten and say, okay, let's make sure the systems are in place that I don't screw this up, because this helped us grow to this 5-year point or this 10-year point. And now we've got to go after the next market to improve our market share, to improve our valuation of our business, to get us to that next level. We've got to actually go after some other segments. And this is challenging, right? But a lot of times what I see is people start to look at that next segment and they go to attack that next segment of their market, and they forget to make sure that their systems are solid with the old stuff before they start trying to go after the new stuff, right? Okay, so that's enough about your people. Go in and evaluate who your people are, right? Something that's very clear. Who are your people? Now, I didn't go into the depths of who my people are. I just kind of gave you the overview, the general idea. You're in business. You've been in business for a while. You understand and have revenue coming in. You're not skimping and scraping for money, right? But you understand that you're going to invest something to improve your systems. Okay, those are my people, right? Because if you're brand new and I'm like trying to shove down your throat systems, you're like, I just need my first client. Like, I just need some money coming in the door. Okay, cool. Well, you figure that out, right? Now, there are some people like that want to invest the money and just skip the line, right? That's cool. Maybe we can talk. But generally speaking, it's businesses that are established and been in business for a while, but you're done with the chaos. You're done with the time wasted, and you want to improve your systems. So you can see it's very clear as to where I'm going, who I'm talking to, and who I want to work with, right? And that's the idea for you. You want to do that too. Now, I have mine really drilled in, right? Besides that, but that gives you the idea, and you should have that idea too, okay? So next, as far as positioning, now we can go back and talk about your mission. So what's your mission? And this is a bit more epic, right? What's your mission in relationship to your philosophy and who you serve, right? Who are your people? Who are your mission? What's your EEI? Or sorry, who are your people? What's your philosophy? What's your EEI? Now those things combined can help you write out your mission. And I mean, I don't mean to make your mission. I've seen whole programs and whole companies that are all built off of trying to help you find your mission. But honestly, I think it's something that you can figure out pretty straightforward. Don't make it too complicated. You can really overdo this one, right? I see that happen a lot, a little bit of overdone on the mission statements. But if you were to Google, like take a top company in the world, let's take like Nike. If you were to Google what's Nike's mission statement, you're going to find that it's like one sentence, like, and not much of that, but it's like clear and to the point. Like it is like straight in, right? So I don't want you to get too bogged down on that, but it does need to be inspired by who you serve, what your philosophies are, what your EEI is. And that mission is going to be valuable. So for me, my mission is to help people upgrade their operating systems. Now, sometimes that's, again, personal. Sometimes that's business. And I like to spend a lot of time in the business space, but I can't spend that time in the business space without actually talking about what's going on in your personal, your brain, your personal systems, right? So I have to kind of spend a little time in both. But upgrading your operating system means to me that if you are running better systems, then you can serve more people, impact the world in a much more meaningful way, and impact more people. And if I can help you impact more people, then I am serving the world at a greater capacity than just one person at a time. And that's why I like to work with experts maybe like you, is because you are out there trying to serve people. You're trying to serve the human race. You're trying to help others in this world. For the limited time we have spinning around on this rock, you're trying to make a difference. And you are the person that I like to help, because I can help you with your systems. You can then impact more people. And that's the mission I'm on. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. And I love doing it. So that gives you an idea, right? But simple, right? It's not hard. You don't have to make your mission hard. And some people are like, well, I'm a plumber. I don't have a mission statement. Baloney. You could have a mission. There's a reason you like doing it. There's a reason you like doing it. You could be like, I love this statement. I'm just a therapist. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're doing it for a reason. You like doing it for a reason. You're not just anything, right? And if you catch yourself doing that, then you probably have this really cool EEI, and you've probably discounted it because it's normal to you. And so if you catch yourself saying, I'm just whatever it is that you're saying after that, it's probably likely that that's way more valuable than you realize. In which case, you probably need to spend some more time in your EEI. Again, you can go check out that masterclass and that assessment at bizchoreo.com/myEEI. The masterclass is free. If you want to take the assessment, that's not, because it's an in-depth assessment. And so I encourage you to go check it out if that's something you need help with. Now, last in this positioning is your story. I didn't start with your story because talking about your story first would not make sense in the system, right? If you understand your EEI, you understand your philosophy, you know the people that you're going to serve, and you get your mission, now you go back and you go, okay, now what is the story that goes with that? What's the story of my EEI and the direction that I have been going to get to where I'm going to? What is that story? And some of you are really great at telling stories. That's awesome. And I hope that's helped you along the way. Some of you suck at telling stories and you're like, I don't have a story. There's nothing story about this. And I say to you, baloney. I call BS. You are probably much better at telling stories than you realize. It's just getting you into the right format and the frame of mind. Now, your story as a business is important, and you've got to find a way to tell your story as a business and make sure that your team members can tell that story for you and on your behalf, right? One of the things that I have always admired about MLMs, I think MLMs are really cool, right? I've joined so many of them in my day, but I've always wanted to do my own thing, right? So I never stay in them. I just like the idea, and they're just really good systems. And so if you're willing to work, MLMs are all great, most of them, because if you're willing to do the work, then you can get the results because they're very systematic. But the interesting part about it is that the downlines of an MLM system, the people and the lines that are doing the best are the ones that the top of the line has told their story, and they've made their story so clear that their downlines can continue to tell their story until they get their own story. And those stories carry them, right? Those stories have things built into the whole. It has their EEI built into it. It has their philosophies and what they stand for built into it. It has who they serve built into it. It has their mission kind of built into it. And it has all of that baked into a nice, beautiful story. And inevitably, these stories can really, really change your business. And this is really such an important element of positioning systems, right? Is creating that story element. And it doesn't matter what type of business. You could be e-commerce, you could be service-based, you could be, it literally doesn't matter. A good story is going to actually improve your results, your ROI, your lifetime value of your customers. It's going to improve your CAC, all the cost to acquire your customers is going to go down, right? Your story is going to be helpful. And there's lots of pieces you can use in your story, right? So some people call it an origin story. Some people call it a epiphany bridge story. There's lots of things you could do. The truth of the matter is, and the simplicity of it is, you need a story. You need a story. I'm not telling you to lie about your story. I'm not telling you to make up your story, right? But I am telling you to figure out how to tell your story. Back when I was just a wee child, when I was a kid, my dad used to take me fishing and hunting with him and his best friend. And his best friend was an incredible storyteller. He was an incredible storyteller. I mean, really, he was quite good. And I always, since I was a kid, aspired to tell stories. Maybe half as good as he could. And he could tell you, we'd have to drive 4 hours to get to this big lake or whatever to go fishing. And he would tell me a story that would take 2.5, 3 hours of that drive. I'd go, I didn't really particularly care for fishing or hunting. It wasn't really my jam, but I'd go and agree to go just because I wanted to hear the stories that he was telling. Sometimes they were funny. Sometimes they were scary. Sometimes, all the time, he'd find a way to incorporate me into them. And it was great fun. It was great fun. Storytellers have such a unique role in our society, but in businesses, storytelling is so incredibly valuable. Now, if you look on the commercials of the big companies and big corporations, you'll find that the really good commercials are telling you stories. And those stories let you infer what their philosophies are, who they serve, what their mission is. Those stories have it all baked in, right? And that's the goal, right? That's what we're trying to accomplish. So there's so much to positioning choreography. We literally just touched the tip of the iceberg today, but I feel like it's such an important element, right? And so again, let me just go through it one more time, just to give you the recap, right? You're going to talk about you're going to figure out your EI and get that written down and figured out. If you need some help, go to the masterclass I told you about. You're going to write down and figure out your philosophy. You're going to write down and figure out who your people are, if it's a new market segment or if it's just getting honed in on your market segment, that's fine. You're going to talk about your mission, and that comes from those other three. And then you're going to create a story around it. And are you going to just create one? Well, no. You could have one master story, but you need multiple stories. You're going to need a lot of stories. Your people need lots of stories to keep things moving, to keep them excited, to keep them inspired, to keep them interested and pushing and believing in what you stand for and what your philosophies are. So go and do some of this. Like this is more than just a, boy, that's fun, that's good to know. Like, actually sit down and do it. Now, in today's day and age, you got AI to help. My youngest calls it Chatty. I got to talk to Chatty today and figure out the best outline for this project I'm doing. What project is it? She says, I made up this art thing that I want to do. And I was like, okay, that's great. All right, go talk to Chatty, whatever your AI is that you use. But nowadays, you could take these things that I talked to you about today, and you could say, hey, AI, or Chatty as it were, these are the things I want to accomplish today. Let's start with this. And you could just literally talk to it and then say, okay, great. Now let's talk about this next thing, and then talk to it about your philosophies. And then you could talk to it about your people, and you could talk to it about your mission. And then you could talk to it about your story. And you don't have to make it clean, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be any of that. And then you could ask it to help you organize and compile it and make it pretty. And you'd be amazed at what you could do just by talking to it. Use the dictate button, by the way. In all the AIs, there's a little button that says dictate, and you can just turn it on, talk, it'll transcribe it right there, and then you hit submit. And then you can tell it what to do with the information, right? Anyway, this has been fun. I love talking about positioning systems. And there are so many, right? Like we've got so many to talk about, so many different systems we could talk about. And this is just sort of top level of some of the systems that you could do. As usual, if you need help with your systems, find a way to reach out, come join the community. Like I said, the community is free, systemsforexperts.com. Come and join it. It's free. There's some free courses. You'll get access to all these lives. You can see all the past ones in there too, and they're available for you. If you have a system that you'd like me to do sooner rather than later, I am not trying to necessarily go in a linear order. I'm kind of just hopping around talking about the things that I feel like talking about that day. So you're welcome to keep joining me. And but if you want me to talk about a specific system, post it in the comments wherever you're watching this, or come join the community. And aside from that, that's all I got for you today. So until next time, keep choreographing your business, and we'll see you next time on Backstage Choreo Live. Peace out, guys. Take care.